Good evening, everyone. We're truly glad to have you back with us tonight. Prisons are supposed to be places of punishment, silence, and order. But beneath the concrete, past the locked steel doors, some things refuse to stay buried. Before we begin, check the time. Seriously, what time is it where you are right now? Because these stories, they hit different after midnight. You're watching Sleep Horror Stories. My name's Cam, and this story isn't mine exactly. It's my dad's. He worked as a corrections officer in Illinois for over a decade, and I asked for his permission to share this. He agreed, as long as I don't use any real names or mention the name of the facility. So here it is. Back in 1991, my dad was newly married and desperate for work. They were renting a tiny apartment in a rough neighborhood, and the money wasn't stretching far. A friend told him about an opening at the Department of Corrections. The pay was decent, the benefits good, and the job? Well, he'd just have to monitor the cameras during the night shift. No direct contact with inmates. My dad thought it sounded perfect. He got the job quickly and started working nights in the control room. His duties were basic: manage the electronic door locks and watch the feeds from over 40 cameras throughout the prison. If anything looked off, someone out of their cell, a fight brewing, whatever, he had to radio the floor guards and let them handle it. At first, it was boring. Most nights, the only movement he saw on screen was the midnight count. Officers walking the tiers with flashlights, checking that every inmate was in bed. After that, the screens were usually still until sunrise. But there were exceptions. The prison wasn't a friendly place, but the officers tried to keep a sense of camaraderie. One of my dad's closest friends, there was a veteran guard named Hank. He was in his 60s, just months away from retirement. My dad used to tease him, "You'll finally get to relax." And Hank would always laugh and say, "Yeah, right. I'll go nuts sitting around the house." Sadly, he never got the chance. Less than a year after retiring, Hank was diagnosed with cancer. He passed away only a few months later. My dad was devastated. About a year later, one quiet night in August, my dad was in the control room with his partner. Let's call him Rick. They were watching the monitors, chatting about a football game, when suddenly, the room turned ice cold. It wasn't just a draft. It was like someone had opened a walk-in freezer. They checked the doors locked, windows sealed. The chill only lasted a few seconds. They joked about it, ghost of cell block D, that sort of thing. But then midnight came. The guards began their walkthroughs. One of them, Orlando, who had taken over Hank's old route, radioed in for the control room to unlock the B-wing. Everything seemed normal. Then, about 10 minutes later, my dad saw something on the monitor. A figure walking slowly through B-wing, just strolling in the dark. It didn't click right away. He thought maybe Orlando had stayed behind, but something fell off. He radioed, "Hey Orlando, are you still in B-wing?" The answer came back instantly. "Nope, I left already." "Why? You see something?" Dad froze. He looked at Rick. "You see that?" he asked. Rick caught just a glimpse. The figure vanishing into a blind spot on the camera. It didn't look like an inmate. It didn't look like anyone they knew. They called it in. A group of officers swept the wing. Every cell checked. Every hallway searched. Nothing. They hoped the playback footage might clear things up, but the recordings were locked behind admin access. They couldn't review it. No one was missing. No one had escaped. The incident was never officially reported. And then, 2 weeks later, it happened again. This time, my dad didn't hesitate. He pulled Rick over and pointed to the monitor. There was no doubt this time. It was Hank. Or at least, something that looked just like him. Walking slowly through the same corridor he'd patrolled for over a decade. Same posture, same pace, same turn toward the blind spot. They didn't call in. They just stared at the screen in silence. They knew what they saw. And they knew no one would believe it. The figure never appeared again. But my dad believes Hank came back for one last round. To say goodbye to the place he gave so much of his life to. And I believe it too. Because even in the darkest places, some people leave behind more than just memories. Hi again. My name is Dr. Julian Rivera. I've already shared one strange experience I had during a night shift at the prison where I work in Texas. But tonight, I want to tell you something else that happened. Something even harder to explain. This isn't a long story, and maybe there's a logical reason behind it. Maybe I'm just missing something, but I haven't been able to come up with one. It happened not too long ago. I'd say about a month back. It was around 1 o'clock in the morning. One of those calm, quiet nights where the whole infirmary feels like it's asleep. I was at my desk, watching a show on my phone, trying to stay awake. My nurse, Martha, same kind-hearted woman I mentioned before, was watching her soap operas on the little TV across the room. Now, this is important. We had no patients that night. Not a single one. Martha got up to use the restroom. I didn't even notice at first. I was half distracted by what I was watching. But then it hit me. I heard a deep, gut-wrenching cry. Like someone mourning, someone in pain. I paused my show and looked up. The sound was so clear. It didn't come from the hallway. It didn't come from the TV. It was inside the infirmary. I stood up and walked between the beds, checking them one by one. I knew they were all supposed to be empty, but still, halfway down the row, I heard the cry again. And something else. The unmistakable sound of shackles. Chains rattling. Like someone cuffed to the bed frame and shifting around. I rushed through the rest of the beds. Nothing. Not a soul in the room. Then Martha came out of the bathroom. I told her what I heard. Her face went completely pale. Now, Martha isn't the joking type. She's scared of her own shadow. So when she looked at me and said, "Please don't mess around with that," I knew she was serious. I dropped the subject. I didn't want to frighten her more. We both sat back down, trying to act like everything was fine. But my heart was still pounding. Nothing like that had ever happened before. And as the hours passed, I kept thinking, was it an echo? A sound from another part of the facility? No. The infirmary is separated from the main cell blocks. No prisoner could have made it down there without being escorted. And Martha was the only other person present. It wasn't the TV. It wasn't my phone. And it definitely wasn't her. The sound came from the beds. Right behind me. I never heard it again. But I'll never forget it either. So I'll ask you the same thing I ask myself every night before I fall asleep. What the hell did I hear that night? And who was crying from chains in an empty room?